Hello and welcome to the Plant Powered in Menopause Summit. This is where you will learn how to eat, move, and support your hormones with plant-based nutrition, fitness, and wellness strategies for confident, healthy aging. This is your one-stop resource to get you one step closer to implementing plant-forward eating and wellness habits to feel amazing in this phase of life. I'm your host, Alix Brown, and our speaker today is Angela Crawford. Angela Crawford, Ph.D., is a psychologist, vegan educator, and award-winning author of The Vegan Transformation, A Journey to Heal Yourself and the World. With over 25 years of clinical experience, she's passionate about bringing her expertise in psychology to empower people toward holistic health, emotional well-being, purpose, and values-aligned living. She has a doctorate in clinical psychology and holds certificates in plant-based nutrition from the T. Colin Campbell Institute as a master vegan lifestyle coach and educator and transformational coach. She's also a licensed PCRM, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, Food for Life instructor. She teaches individuals and groups about emotional resilience and thriving with a plant-powered vegan lifestyle, drawing on principles of psychology and lifestyle medicine. So our topic today is titled Plant-Powered Purpose, How Compassion and Connection Can Help Us Thrive in Midlife. Welcome, Angela.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
It's great to have you. Okay, so when we think about getting some relief from menopause symptoms, we think about the physical, like getting enough sleep, handling our emotions, trying not to be too ragey or cry all the time. But for some women, they're seeking something deeper, like a stronger sense of purpose, and alignment and connection with themselves. And they might be asking themselves what they want in this next stage of life, what they want that to look like. So I'm excited for you to share your perspective on emotional resilience, values-based living, and the psychological benefits of aligning our daily choices with our values. Okay, so you've spent many years as a psychologist and you now teach about plant-based living. How did those two worlds come together for you?
Yeah, that's so interesting. Um, I became a psychologist because I was really interested in human behavior. I had started as a journalism major because I loved writing. And then as I continued on, I took some psychology classes and realized that the topic area that fascinated me was psychology. So I really shifted in that direction, hoping I would still write at some point, which I did. But I, was just really fascinated by how do we change and transform and heal. And so that led me to become a clinical psychologist. And initially, I did specialize in health psychology early in my career. I worked a lot with people with chronic pain and other chronic conditions. And I was really interested in the interconnection between our health and our behavior. And, that continued on. I mean, over time, my practice transitioned to be a private practice, and I worked with a range of things like stress and trauma and anxiety. But all throughout, I was really interested in holistic well-being, how our choices and daily lifestyle affects our well-being. But I have to be honest, for many years, my blind spot was nutrition because I knew about exercise, I knew about, stress management and other, relationships, all these things that are so powerful in our well-being. But when it came to nutrition, I think, until several years ago, I was like many of us where I received the confusing and conflicting messages we get in the media and, about nutrition. And I really was kind of clueless as to what good nutrition really was. And plus, I think, again, like many of us, I had my food addictions. I was like a comfort eater. I loved chocolate bars. I would if I had a stressful work day, I'd run across the street at lunchtime and grab like a chocolate Hershey's bar or something with almonds. Um, and I ate like microwave meals and all this stuff. So this was like how I was before. And then, it shifted for me in, I guess, late 2006, early 2007. I just happened to see a program on PBS that was about workers in a meat processing plant. And it just sort of, it didn't show a lot of details of what their work was like, but it shared enough about their horrific work conditions that it got me thinking more about how my food got to me And it just sort of like it opened my eyes and made me just think where before I just kind of had not really let myself think about, how meat got on my plate or anything like that. And so just that program made me feel like, huh, I want to think about a more plant-based lifestyle. And the very next day, I bought a cookbook and I made my first plant-based recipe, and it was just wonderful. It was a vegetarian lasagna with artichokes, red pepper, and spinach. It's all these beautiful colors. And I actually really enjoyed it. And I was not a cook. I like actually had to buy pots and pans and things like that because I didn't have the right things. So that just started me off. And when I made that and I just found such joy in it, it made me go like do all this reading, like about plant-based living and health. For example, I found, the work that Dr. Dean Ornish had done on reversing heart disease with a plant-based lifestyle. And I have a really strong history of heart disease in my family. And I read about the ethics. I hadn't really realized, the what factory farming and, the cruelty in animal agriculture. And then I learned about the environment. And as I learned all these things, it just led me to want to shift to first a vegetarian lifestyle and then over time fully vegan. And I think by the time I became vegan, which was in 2019, I just realized how we ate affects so many things, our physical health, mental health, the planet, our ethics, all these things. I wanted to share it with other people. It just felt so important. And so that kind of just led me to start to integrate the plant-based lifestyle in with my professional, contribution. And I kind of felt the psychology piece was missing, that there's a lot about nutrition or the health, but not so much like how does food affect us emotionally or how do the psychology of change, that, information is not always enough to make us change, and so I really became interested in bringing psychology and plant-based living together and exploring how those interconnect. And so that's really been these last several years where more and more of my focus has been.
Right, right. Yeah, it's yeah, when you said what led you to like, exploring and thinking about it. For me, it was cowspiracy. So it's funny how like, even though I was vegetarian for a long time, and that was mainly about the environment, I think they were just talking about like, dairy, and I'm like, why am I eating dairy? Like this is crazy. And I just that was it for me. It was seeing Cowspiracy. So it's funny like what opens your eyes. Um
Yeah.
so is that
Yeah, so true. And I think somehow those interconnections, it makes it so deeply meaningful because you realize like that your food choices affect so many different things in ways you hadn't fully realized.
yeah, yeah. I know, yeah. I mean, we kind of like wish that we had opened our eyes earlier, like a lot of us that are vegan, but I know there's reasons why that doesn't happen. It's very hidden from us. So
Mhm.
anyways, yeah, once you start researching though, it's kind of hard to not to go back. Um,
Yes, exactly.
yeah, so is that what inspired you to write The Vegan Transformation then?
Yeah, I think for me, when I finally made that shift from vegetarian to vegan, in some ways it was hard because of the social aspects, of choosing to eat fully plant-based in a world where that's not how most people around you eat and having to speak up and, and at a birthday event, be able to say, I'm not eating the non-vegan birthday cake, or whatever it is. But once I could work through those social challenges and become more comfortable with speaking up, there was so much fulfillment for me because
Hmm.
it just felt deeply aligned. I felt like I was more authentic. This is the way I should have been living long ago. I'm a compassionate person. I do care about health. And yet I had this disconnect in how I was eating and living before. And so now I felt freer and more fulfilled. And I was meeting other people with a plant-based or vegan lifestyle all over through networking groups that I was part of. And many of them shared this deep sense of purpose they were finding and fulfillment. And I thought, wow, so many people I know, and this was me too before, they think a vegan lifestyle would be restrictive or depriving. And yet I'm not finding that. I'm finding that I'm actually expanding what I eat in so many ways. So many foods I didn't even know about or think about before, like Um, my food choices are so much more interesting, but it's also affected my life in other ways. And I found that from other people I interviewed. And also, I had gone through a transformational coaching program, which was wonderful. I met all these women that cared about changing the world in positive ways. And yet most of them were not plant-based or vegan. And I just felt like there was sort of this disconnect, where a lot of us just don't realize how life-changing plant-based living can be. And I wanted to share that. I wanted to, I knew there was a lot of books about the health benefits, but not as much as about the emotional and spiritual aspects of living plant-based. And so I sent out a online survey about the emotional and psychological and spiritual shifts that people had living plant-based. And then I interviewed several of the people in more depth. And so that's where my book came out of those surveys and interviews. What were the core transformations that people experienced in kind of mind, body, spirit on this journey? So that's kind of what led to the vegan transformation, which is really about the results of that research. So,
Oh, that's great. I'm so glad you put that together. I'm sure a lot
yeah.
of people benefit from that.
Yeah, yeah, it was very meaningful for me to do. And I hope it will continue to impact people wherever they are on their journey because it's written in a way that's inviting. It's not written in a way that assumes everybody's in the same place. And so some people who read it might be just veg curious, wanting to know more about how more plant-based eating could benefit them. Others might already be vegan, and it helps for those of us already plant-based or vegan to know how we can take better care of ourselves so we really thrive in all ways.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it really is like so much more than the diet or the food.
Yes, it
Yeah,
is
so
for
much
sure.
more. Okay, so of course, many people start eating more plant-based for health reasons. Um, what has surprised you the most about the emotional or psychological benefits that you and others that you've coached experience? You've gone into
Uh,
that a bit already, but
yeah. Yeah, well, for me personally, I identify as an introvert, and I still am. I get tired if I'm in a social event and need to kind of recover. But something about becoming vegan led me to come out of my shell a bit and want to share it with others because I think this deep sense of purpose came. So, and I found that from other people I interviewed that when something makes a positive impact on your life and you realize it could have a ripple effect on so many things that many of us care about, you want to share it. And so I think the biggest thing I found is when I interviewed people, just I guess a few things that really stood out. One is the power of values alignment. I think it's overlooked in our culture how important it really is because I don't hear a lot of conversation in like the mainstream media about that. But I think living aligned with our values is transformative for us in so many ways. And then, I think a couple other things that surprised me were the spiritual component that people found when they ate plants and left animals off the plate. A lot of people reported spiritual changes, feeling more interconnected with nature and with life and with their higher power. So that was one that I hadn't fully expected, so that was kind of cool.
oh, that is so interesting. Yeah, I definitely want to learn more about that because I'm not sure for me like because I was vegetarian for so long and then I'm not sure that I made that but I think I maybe I did. I should explore that more.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Um, okay, so menopause is often a time when women start asking bigger questions about how they want to spend their time and energy. And so, how can making choices that reflect our values help us feel more grounded and resilient during these times of change, such as going through menopause?
Mm. Yeah, transitions can be a window of opportunity for us to even become more authentic and more true to ourselves because sometimes we're shedding old things and sometimes there's grief and loss that comes with that, but it's also an opportunity to become more authentic. And, I was mentioning values, how important they are. I think of values as sort of like our moral compass, our guiding light, and sort of fundamental beliefs that help us make decisions day to day. And yet, a lot of us haven't maybe slowed down to look at what are my values? What really matters to me in life? And I do share in my book, The Vegan Transformation, several questions that can help people explore their values. And I also have an article on my website about that I can share with you. But I'll mention a couple of things here that might help someone who's trying to reflect on, well, what really matters to me? Um, it could be, what do I want to be known for or remembered for? That could point you to some of your values. Who are people that I admire and what are the qualities that I admire about them? And are those qualities that I'd like to embody? And I think even, day to day, we can look at like when something upsets us, either an action we took or didn't take, or something someone else does or doesn't do. Sometimes if something really upsets us, that can reflect a value that's been affected. And we can kind of take a look at like, why did this upset me so much? Which value that I have did this impact? Like, was I not being as compassionate as I think I should be? Was I not being as authentic as I'd like to be? And it kind of points us to these values. So, I mean, values can be things like, compassion and kindness, honesty, integrity, authenticity, um, creativity. There can be all kinds of things, valuing our health and wanting to make healthy choices so that we can stay active and independent. All of these things could be values, but it helps to kind of make a list of our values and then maybe even hone it down to like the top two or three, so that we can really be thinking about those when we make decisions and as we move into this new stage of our life. Because while we can't control what happens to us, we can control how we respond and maybe have the courage to make some new, more aligned life choices. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I like what you said about opportunity. Like, it can be an opportunity, like these times of transition. So for menopause, that's one of the things that I talk to women about is that menopause can be an opportunity, even though there's all this stuff going on, and making like a list of the things that are important to you, and we call them like your big rocks. What are the things that are the big rocks that you put in your jar first, and then the other things go on top.
that's a great way to think about it. I love that.
Yeah, and like we're always told too to like oh, live in alignment of alignment. And somehow that compassion piece gets like left out of like gets left out of that, when we're talking about like alignment with being compassionate towards animals. So yeah, I'm glad that can come up too. Um,
Yeah.
okay. So do you think there is a difference between simply following a diet and then creating a lifestyle that feels meaningful?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I really think so. When someone thinks about a diet, it's usually something that, whether it should be thought of this way or not, it's often a short-term thing. It's like, well, I'll try this diet. And then it's sort of this idea that like once I'm on this diet, if I lose weight or whatever it is that I'm trying to do with it, then I'll shift back to whatever way I want to go to after that. Or if, oh, I don't like this diet, I'll go to another diet. Um, and first of all, most of us know that like diets in and of themselves rarely lead to lasting change. It's more about, our lifestyle. It's like, what are we committed to? What is the lifestyle we make a commitment to live long term? That's going to have a much greater impact on our well-being than a short-term kind of, I'll try this diet, and see how it works kind of thing. And, with plant-based living, the positive impact it can have, sometimes it can be very quick for people, but the greater impact is as you live it over time. So, so I think, when you think of it as a lifestyle, it almost becomes part of your identity. I'm a person who chooses to eat healthy. I'm a person who is choosing to eat more compassionately and sustainably. And I make choices that align with my health and my values. And as it becomes part of your identity, you're more committed and it's more fulfilling and it's more lasting. And I will say too that for most of us to make a lifestyle change, if we go deeper with why it matters to us, that also can help, because maybe someone is changing to a plant-based lifestyle for health reasons, but why does that matter to you? Why does your health matter? What does your health bring you
Yeah.
that really you care about? What activities does it allow you to do, or things does it allow you to engage in that you really care about? And does it affect things beyond yourself too? Because I think sometimes if we care about not only how it helps us, but how it helps the larger picture, sometimes that can help us be less likely to cheat, quote unquote, or kind
Right.
of go off of our committed lifestyle that we're in, even though we all do have setbacks and that's normal. But just having that deeper commitment and expanding what our why is, and going really deeper with what our reasons are, that can, I think, help it to be much more than a diet, to something that's just really meaningful to us, that we don't want to just throw it out the window if we have a bad day. We're more willing to figure out, well, what went wrong here? What could I improve?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think too when you were talking about like diet, the word diet, and I think for a lot of Gen X, my generation women,
Mhm.
we had all these quick fix diets that came through, like the cabbage soup diet, learn lose weight fast and all of these kinds of things. So when you're thinking about like in menopause, and even me, like I had a healthy diet before menopause, but I still needed to tweak it because it was
Mhm.
different after menopause. I needed to I couldn't eat the stuff that I used to eat before and get away with it if I wanted to
Yeah.
stay healthy. Like I had to, there were,
Yeah.
I couldn't be as junk food vegan as I wanted to be. So
Yes.
yeah, right. So yeah, just shifting, getting into that new lifestyle, like this is my lifestyle now, and I love it. And it's just, it's just a bit different than it was before. But this is how I want to be for the rest of my life. And then, yeah, like you said, identity and the why. Why do you want to be this way? Well, I want to be healthy. Why do you want to be healthy? Well, because for my kids. Well, why, or for my grandkids. So, but why is important for you to be healthy for your grandkids? Well, so and you just keep uncovering
Yeah.
why. When it
Yeah.
gets down to the nitty gritty and the exact why, like those dolls where you open it up,
Yes.
like a little
Yeah. The Russian doll kind of
the
thing.
dolls.
Yes.
I forgot what they're called, but yeah, those, yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
nesting dolls. Yes, that's what you call them.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of like that, like just getting right down to it, and that ends up being your true why. And it's usually
Yeah.
about you. It's usually something about you. It's not about other people.
Yeah. True. Very true. And the reason it matters to you to honor certain things or be able to do certain things. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and that kind of is leads us into the next question, which is what role does compassion towards ourselves play when we're trying to make healthy changes or compassionate
Yeah.
changes for animals even?
Yeah. I think that's so important. Women in particular, and compassionate, empathic women, or those in caring and helping roles, sometimes we're so good at giving compassion to everyone else and to be kind and supportive to others. And then we forget to include ourselves, and we can have really unrealistic expectations for ourselves and beat up on ourselves when we are not living up to those. And so someone might have a setback and not eat the way they had planned and then be really harsh on themselves, or just even figure, well, I can't do this and give up, or just be really hard on themselves when they can't be everything or do everything. And there's so much research that shows the benefits of self-compassion. I've read a couple of Dr. Kristen Neff's books. She wrote a book called Self-Compassion. She's a psychologist. And then her more recent one that I'm reading is about self-compassion for burnout. And she and her colleagues have done a lot of research showing that, even though people fear that being self-compassionate will somehow be like I'm letting myself off the hook or something, or I'm not going to be motivated. The reality is being really critical and negative to yourselves, it doesn't really work. Just like if I were yelling at somebody, it's not usually going to be the thing that motivates them. It doesn't work for us either. And so, the research suggests that when we talk to ourselves like we would a good friend, um, it can be encouraging. It can even be sometimes tough love, but with kindness and respect, and be like that makes a huge difference how we talk to ourselves and treat ourselves. And just realizing, a lot of what we're feeling, we're not alone. Other people have these same feelings, or the overwhelm we might experience. Other people have it too. And what do I need right now that would help me through this? So it's just like talking and treating ourselves with some kindness. And often it has this paradoxical effect that it actually can make us more motivated or more able to pick ourselves up. And I think that kind of fits into why, like setbacks can be a normal part of the process of change and being more compassionate when we have them and being able to learn from them.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, when you were saying doing being compassionate towards ourselves, like when we mess up or whatever. I also thinking about like even self-care, because so many times throughout our lives we're told like, oh, you can't be any good to anyone else if you don't take care of yourself. And it's like, but why can you just not be good to yourself for you? Like rather than
Yeah.
it doesn't always have to be for someone else. Like, yeah, that might be,
True.
it's like that, like uncovering the nesting dolls,
Yes.
uncovering it's like you're
Yeah.
the core of that. So yeah, it's always like, you matter. So self-care
Yeah.
for you, it's yeah. So I think so many times we're told to like, or people say that, and that's what women are used to hearing. It's like take care
Yeah.
of yourself so you can take care of, others. So,
And there's certainly truth to that. It's like if our driving force is to take care of others, it is true we do need to take care of ourselves, but you're right, it's important in and of itself, just that it's sort of like if you have a circle of compassion, you need to be included in that circle, and to thrive, and just because, as you're saying, just simply because you matter.
yeah, just because you matter.
And that made a huge difference for me in my own journey. I had realized several years ago that sometimes when I felt tired or overwhelmed, I was really harsh on myself, kind of like, why are you feeling this way? You must have done something wrong, or, just kind of when I became more aware of the self-talk and really shifted it to more like, it sounds like you've had a hard day, it seems like you're feeling kind of tired. What do you need right now? Just kind of talking to myself in a more caring way, the way I would a friend or someone I cared about. It shifted things, I just felt different. I related to tough feelings differently.
Mm.
I was able to navigate them in a better way. And I think it has helped how I relate and help others, but it also has just helped me live a more fulfilling, aligned life too. Yeah.
Yes, right. Okay, so also leading into the next question then, some women worry that they have to be perfect when they're making their lifestyle changes. So what would you say to someone who wants to eat more plant-based but feels overwhelmed? You've mentioned having some compassion towards yourself. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to that?
Yeah. Yeah, we all have, setbacks. So first of all, certainly realizing that perfection is an idea that we have that most of us, it's just not really usually possible. Life hands us things where we're going to sometimes have challenges or setbacks. And I think the people who succeed are not those who are perfect. They're the ones that kind of can learn from when they have a tough experience or a time where they didn't quite align with what they had planned. How can I learn from this? What will I do differently next time? Just use it as a learning opportunity. That is so key because in all my years in working with clients on a range of things, I think how people related to their setbacks was one of the most important things. And being perfectionistic and really harsh on yourself that just sets you up to either feel like bad all the time or feel like, well, why even try? Because I guess I just can't do this. Whereas really anyone that's changing their lifestyle, they're gonna have it's just part of change. If you're staying level, yeah, you don't have setbacks. But if you're trying to change something, you're gonna go up and then you're gonna have some downs. Most of us do anyway. And so it's more like, how do you relate to that? It's more like, okay, what went off this time that I could learn from? So if something like this happens again, I'll have a plan for it and I'll be prepared for it. And, just trying some different foods and, introducing some new, meals, trying some new recipes. There's a lot of different ways we can just explore and learn and grow on this plant-based journey.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, just like be kind to yourself and if you mess up, you mess up and let go of perfection. Yeah. It's good.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Yeah, I really think actually we can become more deeply committed after a setback rather than because sometimes like a setback shows us what we're missing if we don't stick to our lifestyle change. Sometimes we eat poorly and we just feel really bad and it's just like, okay, this isn't really what I want, and so it's not that I'm giving myself permission to have all kinds of setbacks, but it's just like if they do happen, how can I view it as an opportunity to grow even stronger in my commitment and next time that situation comes up where I eat because I'm stressed or I give in to pressure at a social event, maybe I can have a plan for that so that I can handle it better. And I wouldn't have learned that probably if I didn't have the setback. So it's just, okay, I'm not going to try to have them, but if they happen, how can I learn?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like one of the things I learned was when I was going vegan is that I didn't realize like when I went out how hard it would be to find something vegan.
Yes,
Do you know what I mean?
yes,
Like just like I used because I wasn't used to it. Now it's easy, but like so I learned, oh, I need to pack, I need to bring some granola bars with me or I need to bring
yes,
nuts with me or something just, to like make sure that, because then when you're hungry, you're like angry. So
yes. It's so
and
true. That was something I learned too with travel or social events
yeah.
and speaking up to the host ahead of time or
Mm.
planning to bring food that I could share and having, as you say, snacks that I could eat, all those things that you learn so that next time you're not in that situation.
Yeah, how to answer questions too about
Yes.
lifestyle for people that don't understand if you're just trying to eat healthy or trying to be healthy. People have
Yeah.
questions and yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so what's one small thing that a woman who's listening today could do to feel more connected to herself and her values and the kind of life that she wants to create going forward from menopause?
Okay. Yeah, one way that I find so helpful to connect with ourselves, and this is something I've drawn on throughout my life, is journaling. And I would say listen to your dreams. And this could be both the dreams you have at night, which sometimes can give us information, but also just your inner dreams that you have, and to journal about those kinds of things. Because sometimes things we dismiss because they don't seem practical or I don't know. Again, this was one of the ways that I used to be hard on myself. I'd have this vision for something that excited me, but I'd minimize or dismiss it because it's like it just didn't seem practical. How is this going to happen? I'm already doing this, or this. How is this other thing that I'm now kind of excited about going to unfold? But with journaling, you can write about these dreams and you can start to see which ones really have staying power. And sometimes we are being guided into something. I think midlife is a time when this happens for many women, where we're being guided into maybe a little bit different version of ourselves or our contribution or our gifts. And if I think that happened to me with like writing my book and certain other things. Um, I would have just thought, well, this just isn't practical, or I don't have the time for this, or whatever. Well, as it turns out, sometimes when we commit to something and take the next aligned step, the things open up for us. And so I really think journaling can be a great way to connect with those dreams and those gifts and those just different things that we're feeling a call towards. And it's not that you'll necessarily do everything that you feel inspired about, but sometimes there's certain ones that really we feel a strong pull and maybe we need to explore them a little bit.
Mm.
So I think journaling is a great way to connect with some of that for us. So that's one thing I would recommend.
Yeah. I like that too because it journaling can be it can be a brain dump. It can be a way to get out your feelings, but you can take it that step further and to actually yeah, like learn from it and keep assessing what's important to you and what your dreams are because those can change. I
Yeah.
never thought I'd be doing this summit even like
Yeah,
you know like
exactly.
even a few months ago. And so now, I'm sitting here talking to you, and this isn't something that I thought was a dream of mine, but as soon as I entertained the idea, I was like, yeah, this is
Yeah.
now a dream of mine. It's like, yeah, it's funny how those things happen. So yeah, journaling, great.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so and you also have something that you'll share with the people that are watching. Did you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. I created this ebook that's called the Vegan Emotional Resilience Toolkit. And it's for anybody. I think, most people would align with it, whether they identified as vegan or not, anywhere on the plant-based journey, because the tools in it really relate to just emotional resilience in general. And some of them are specific to those of us on the plant-based or vegan journey. But for the most part, it includes things, some of which we covered today, like connecting with your why. And there's some tools for calming your nervous system when you're stressed. And in there, I think I also have a link to a journaling ebook that I'd also created. So if someone were to get the Vegan Emotional Resilience Toolkit, as you scroll through it, there's a lot of different resources in it that you can connect with as well, meditations, a journaling ebook, and other things. So it has like 7 different principles for helping us to be more emotionally resilient, which basically has to do with how do we respond to stressors in life and stay true to ourselves and stay on track and not get totally derailed. So I think emotional resilience is something that can help all of us just to live a life that's more fulfilling, healthy, and true to ourselves. So it has a lot of different tips and resources in there. So there'll be a link, I believe, in what you share with people that they can download that for free.
Cool. Thank you so much for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
living in peace that's something I'm always striving for is like peace. So it's peace. Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes I
Yeah.
have it, sometimes I don't. But anyway.
Yes.
Okay, so and where can people find you if they want to learn more about your work?
Yeah, my website, which is angelacrawfordphd.com. And it has like links to everything. It has links to any programs that I offer. It has links to different resources and also just ways to contact me. So, and my book too, link to learn more about the vegan transformation book.
Yeah, nice. Okay, thank you so much. It's been a great conversation.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it too. I wanted to just add that although I had become vegan about a year or so before I went into menopause, and I hadn't really known the connection, but I turned out not to have any symptoms whatsoever. So
Wow.
I don't know if certainly there's research from some of the doctors, like Dr. Neil Barnard, that suggests that like letting go of dairy and having more plants and having like things like tofu and all of that can help. So I don't know if that made a difference for me, but I just like had a seamless transition, which I realized was a true blessing. But I have to attribute it to that change in lifestyle because I'm sure if I was eating the way I had eaten many years ago, it might not have been quite like that.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely would did I increased my intake of soy because my hot flashes were quite terrible, and that was one of the
Oh
that I had
gosh.
to make is that I wasn't eating enough protein and enough soy, and yeah, like I just needed to increase some of those things, which we have lots of speakers talking about those things coming up, like the importance of each one of those, including Dr. Barnard. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah, that's great that he will be on. Awesome. You're having some great speakers, and this is a wonderful event. And I just hope, the viewers can really see the opportunities for transformation in this stage of life, because
Yes.
there are as many positive opportunities to actually become truer to yourself as we move into this stage of life.
Well, I'm post-menopause and I've just like posted something recently, like because I was just feeling it. I'm like, you know what? Like being post-menopause rocks. That's it. That's all I have to say. It just rocks. Like I just feel so much more like me and the person that I've always been, without having to worry about other people and other I don't know. It's bliss, I gotta say. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yes, okay. Well, thank you so much. I so appreciate that you're part of the summit. And yes,
Well,
best of
thank
luck.
you, and many blessings to you and all who are watching this over time.
Great. Thank you.